I'm a 21-year-old male college student living with my parents, both in their 50s, and my older brother, 26. For the past 2 years, since starting college, my parents have charged me $500 monthly rent for my childhood bedroom while I've covered all my tuition and expenses. This wouldn't seem odd if we were strapped for cash, but we're not. My brother, meanwhile, never paid rent during his college years, and his entire education was funded by a $60,000 account our grandfather set up for each of us at birth. The agreement was straightforward. Grandpa provided $60,000 for my brother's college and another $60,000 for mine. My brother used his to graduate debt-free from a top university. When my turn came, I expected the same. Instead, my parents claimed there was no money for my tuition or living costs, offering vague excuses about tough times and money not growing on trees. They insisted I attend college full-time while working nearly full-time to pay my way, including rent. Initially, I accepted their explanation, thinking perhaps an emergency drained the funds, though they dodged any specifics. But red flags started appearing. The biggest was my brother's extravagant wedding last year. It was a grand affair, hundreds of guests, a luxurious venue, a designer gown for his bride, a live band, even an ice sculpture of a dove. Standing at the reception, I mentally tallied the costs, wondering how my parents could afford such opulence right after claiming they had nothing for my education. I stayed quiet during the wedding to avoid drama, but the suspicion lingered. Whenever I gently asked about my college fund or our finances, my parents shut me down with guilt trips like, "Don't be ungrateful, we're housing you," or "You need to be independent." Feeling ashamed for questioning them, I let it go for a while. But this week, after a brutal summer semester juggling 2 jobs to cover tuition, bills, and rent, I snapped. I confronted my parents, demanding to know what happened to my $60,000 and why I was paying rent when my brother never did. The argument got heated. My mom called me disrespectful and said the money was gone, telling me to move on. My dad insisted I'm an adult and should expect to pay my own way. I countered that charging rent to a struggling college student, especially when my fund was supposed to exist, wasn't normal. In my frustration, I accused them of stealing my education money. That didn't go over well. My mom was livid, and my dad threatened to kick me out if I kept making accusations in their home. They called me selfish for expecting a handout, but I argued it was Grandpa's gift, not a handout. The fight ended in a stalemate, and now we're barely speaking. My brother, who moved back home after his wedding to save for a house, thinks I should apologize to keep the peace. He says our parents must have had a valid reason for using my fund and that I'm overreacting. It's easy for him to say he got his degree and a lavish wedding. I'm stuck in a tense household, feeling unfairly treated. Maybe calling them thieves was too much, and I'm questioning myself. Do I owe them an apology for refusing to pay rent and suspecting they spent my college fund on my brother's wedding? Update 1. Wow, the response was overwhelming. Hundreds of comments when I expected a handful. Most of you agreed I'm not the asshole, NTA, and suspected my college fund was used for my brother's wedding. Many urged me to call my grandfather, who set up the funds, for clarity. I was hesitant to involve him, but took the advice. I called Grandpa, and he was furious, beyond furious. He's usually calm at 74, but when I explained how I'm working myself ragged to pay for school and rent while my fund vanished, he was livid. He confirmed he gave my parents $60,000 for my education, just like my brother's, and knew of no emergencies that would have required using it. Some asked if the money was in a trust. It wasn't. Just savings Grandpa transferred to my parents' account, trusting them to manage it for my college as they did for my brother. He's regretting that trust now. Grandpa demanded an immediate meeting with my parents, set for tomorrow at their house. They don't know he's involved, so it'll be a surprise. I'm nervous about the confrontation, but I'm relieved to have Grandpa's support. I should have told him sooner, but I didn't want to drag family into this. Clearly, he needed to know. To clarify, my brother and his wife live rent-free with my parents to save for a house, while I'm the only one paying $500 a month. Renting elsewhere costs more, and with tuition, I couldn't afford it. But I'm exploring options now. A friend offered his couch, and Grandpa said I can stay with him. If things escalate, I have a way out. I'm bracing for my parents' reaction. Will they deny it, make excuses, or blame me? Grandpa's ready to bring consequences, maybe legal or family-wide shaming. I'll update after the meeting. Update 2, I'm writing from Grandpa's house because I'm no longer welcome at my parents'. The confrontation was intense. Grandpa and I arrived unannounced yesterday morning while my brother and his wife were at work. We sat in the living room and Grandpa cut straight to it. "Where's the $60,000 I gave you for his college?" My parents played dumb. Mom claimed it was in savings, and Dad mumbled about rising costs and family expenses. "You guys called it," they tried to dodge and deflect. Grandpa wasn't buying it. Calmly but firmly, he pressed. "What expenses? No medical crises, no home repairs. What cost $60,000? After dodging, Dad slipped, saying, "It went to the wedding, okay. You wanted your grandson to have a memorable day, didn't you?" Mom, crying, said they had no choice but to splurge on the wedding and planned to save up again for my college but fell short. So they admitted it. My college fund paid for my brother's extravagant wedding, Dove ice sculptures, open bar, the works. I was furious but stayed calm, saying, "So my future was sacrificed for a party?" Dad called me dramatic, saying I could take loans or finish college later and they'd plan to repay me eventually. He accused me of embarrassing them by involving Grandpa. Grandpa shut them down, saying they should be ashamed for stealing from me and him. He demanded they repay the $60,000 immediately. Mom claimed they didn't have it. Dad snapped they couldn't undo the wedding. Grandpa's response, "Your mess, your problem, fix it." He warned of legal action and family disownment if they didn't comply. Dad blamed me, saying I turned Grandpa against them and told me to leave. Grandpa didn't hesitate. "Let's go, you're staying with me." I grabbed my backpack. "My stuff's still there, I'll get it later," and left. I'm at Grandpa's now, and we're exploring legal options since there was no formal trust. Grandpa's lawyer is drafting a letter demanding repayment, possibly via a loan. My parents know they're cornered. I'm relieved to be out, and seeing them face consequences felt good, even if this sucks. Thanks for pushing me to involve Grandpa. Update 3. A few days later, here's the latest. Many asked about my brother's role and reaction. I talked with him, and it was eye-opening. My parents haven't contacted me since the blow-up, but Grandpa's lawyer sent a letter demanding the $60,000. Legally, it's tricky without a trust, but the lawyer warned that non-compliance would lead to public exposure or a lawsuit. My parents haven't responded yet, but are likely scrambling for funds. I met my brother, D, away from our parents. I expected him to defend them, but he was horrified. He didn't know they used my college fund for his wedding. They told him the costs were covered, implying savings or a loan. He never suspected my fund. When I shared my side, he was emotional, apologizing repeatedly. He said he'd never have allowed such an extravagant wedding if he'd known. D and his wife offered to sell their SUV, partly funded by our parents, to help repay me. I said it's our parents' mess, not his, but he insists on helping. They're also moving to an apartment, halting house plans. Dee's furious with our parents, having argued with them since learning the truth. Mom claimed they meant no harm and thought they'd replace the money before I noticed. Dad's mad about the embarrassment and blames me for involving Grandpa. Through Dee, I know my parents are meeting a financial advisor, possibly for a loan or refinancing. Grandpa's ready to escalate if they don't pay, legally or socially. I'm at Grandpa's, focusing on school and work, feeling less stressed. Dee and Grandpa's support means everything. Our parents could have given my brother a nice wedding without wiping out my future. They just didn't. Update 4. Big news. My parents repaid the $60,000. It took weeks, but the money's mine in a new account Grandpa helped set up. They took a home equity loan, transferred the funds to Grandpa, who passed them to me. We haven't spoken. It was handled through lawyers and banks, which suits me fine. Seeing the money in my account was unreal, thrilling yet bittersweet after fighting my own parents. I've paid off my student loans and credit card debt from the past 2 years. Paying those off felt incredible. I can now cover my senior year's tuition without overworking, with some left for grad school or savings. I quit one of my 2 jobs, keeping the other for expenses. I'm no longer exhausted, nodding off in class or begging for extensions. I even have time for friends and a social life, which feels amazing. My parents are likely stuck with a big loan, but we haven't talked. Grandpa's civil but cold with them, handling only necessary paperwork. He's adjusted his estate to exclude them from future inheritance, which they don't know. My brother's barely speaking to them either. Mom had a meltdown when the loan was approved, crying about their ruined lives. Dee and I have no sympathy. We love them but can't believe their actions. I'm content keeping my distance. With the money, I'll graduate on time. My outlook's brighter and I'm thriving in school with more balance. Thanks to Grandpa and Dee, I'm moving forward. My parents won't derail me again.